right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Chris Anderson Comics. Today, we have a very special guest, Kevin, Anthony, Catalan. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. Always
All right.
drawing.
Draw, man. That's all we do.
We do.
So Kevin is the author and illustrator of SpaceKnights, put out by Cosmic Line Productions. Not only is there one SpaceKnights, but there is a companion, Tales of SpaceKnights. Anthony, what is SpaceKnights about?
Well, I like to describe it as a
Anthony. I'm
interplanetary.
sorry, Kevin.
It's funny. Actually, that's the second time this week someone called me Anthony, and I've
Oh
always
my
just
God.
responded.
Good friend
But
I am.
no, you're good. I actually kind of like hearing Anthony sometimes. So it's a good change of pace. I'm like, yeah, I'm Anthony too. There you go.
Right.
But yeah, so SpaceKnights is an interplanetary space warfare between elves and men, so it's space fantasy. It's also kind of an anthology, not anthology where the stories are different, but they all take place in the same universe. And so they either take place in the same time or before or after, but it's not completely obvious. So there's a lot of stuff in the books that will hint towards that. So that's like the overall idea for this book as face value. But each story is different. So Cult Hunters is kind of this buddy cop story of like two mercenaries hunting cults. They kind of work for the church because there's like an inquisition happening.
Right.
And there's also the second story, which is Iron Hand. It's kind of he's like an old heroic like a knight that was seen as kind of like a wrestler. You know how people look at wrestlers like superheroes? So it's kind of like that, but it's a breakdown of that superhero genre of what it means to be a hero. So moving on to the story is going to be about that. And the third story is my love for war films and love for war history, so like World War II and stuff. So it's about the grunts on the ground. That Mud for Hill was the one. So you'll, instead of seeing heroes of usually fantasy stories, you'll see like the prince, the king fighting in the thing, right? But this is all about the guys that their lives are expendable. These guys are just thrown into the battle. That's what the point of view of the whole, at least the first issue. And then we're going to be switching off in the future issues of the other side of the elves. So I like to show both sides. A very gray comic about the conflict.
Oh, that's really cool. That's a really great idea, man.
Yeah,
gray about the conflict, but certainly not gray with the colors.
No, definitely not. It's space.
Right as hell. I love it though.
That was the thing that I set out to do when I first started this book, is that I really hated too much browns in comics a lot now. It's like, oh, to make it look realistic, But I'm doing a space fantasy comic. This has to be colorful. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it works so perfectly for this. Where did the idea for this come from?
Yeah, so this idea, actually, the whole thing started out when I was really young. It wasn't even like fantasy or space. It was just more like a superhero comic, I wanted to make like an X-Men kind of thing. So I think you can see the collection of characters kind of influenced by that. But that was the main thing, was I wanted to make something kind of X-Men. But it slowly evolved into, I think it was in high school, where I started getting into fantasy a lot.
Right.
And I was already into Lord of the Rings, but I got into Game of Thrones more. And then I started looking at other fantasy, like D&D stuff. I started looking into that too. So it became something fantasy. It wasn't space fantasy yet. So it was just knights and stuff. And I started getting these guys saying, oh, it's like Lord of the Rings. I'm like, that's not that. It's so I got discouraged. I'm like, man, it just feels like other fantasy stories. And so not until college is when I really found its actual voice, where I got into the retro like space stuff. And then was for my comics class in college, where we had to do a final for my final for my comics class. And I just made that short. Actually, it's all the way in the back of this book. I made that short of the of Iron Hand. Yeah. So that was the thing I turned into class. And so that was the idea, where, oh, Knights in Space. And then I was really wanting to do something about, I was really into like wrestling culture in a way, but not really. I wasn't really watching much wrestling, but the culture itself and how it's, and also gladiators and knights. I was a little in love with that. And also like retro sci-fi, pulp fiction sci-fi stuff. And so I kind of combined all of that elements together into creating this weird world. That's why you have announcers, and then the announcers are treating knights as wrestlers, and they have like a certain personality to them, but it's real, it's not like fake, but they still have that kayfabe of like wrestlers and that, like quote unquote performance of them.
Yeah. It's a little bit like it reminds me a little bit of like Running Man. Did you ever see that with the Arnold
Yeah,
Schwarzenegger movie? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it is very much like what's his name, Philip K. Dick, kind of like approach to sci-fi, I would say, but nothing too deep about sci-fi. Like ask you deep questions about humanity or anything like that. But it is, reminiscent of that time of like the way sci-fi is drawn, I have made. But yeah, so I had the fantasy story, and then I wanted to do something with this world, and I was like, oh, I have to world build again. But I was like, oh, why don't I just combine the fantasy world building I've done for years and just put into this like skin, and
Right.
then it just mended like really well, and like, oh, everything is just it was connecting, and everything was even just moving forward. I could see the story, and then this was born.
That's really cool. And then, so what's Tales of Space Knights? So which one came first? Was
The
this
colored
Space
one,
Knights?
yeah,
Okay.
that one, yeah.
And so
So
Tales of Space Knights came second. And
yes, so that came out this last year, actually.
okay,
Yeah, yeah.
I can see a difference in the art. Um, Honestly, like I could see that this has a lot more like texture in it.
Yeah. So this Tales was made because I was already working on the issue 2 around 2021. I got
Hmm.
into a couple of pages in, but I wasn't really happy with the writing and also the art. I knew I can do better, you know.
Yeah.
Mostly when it's like a passion project, I want to make sure that I do want to finish books, right? That's the first thing I want to do. But since my goal was to grow more
Yeah.
and really find more of like a unique voice. I wouldn't say too unique, but something that would propel me forward is that I want to do something short, you know? Yeah. Okay. So I want to
Yeah.
do something short. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do issue 2 yet because I want to make that the big step. So I want to do like interlude comic that it's its own short story. And people would tell me I should do black and white. And so I said, oh, okay. That'd be a good challenge, right? And so I did black and white for this one to really practice, because like the first book is colorful, and this one's a whole different approach. And so just really just work out my little kinks in there, and then just get better at drawing my comic. And texture was one of them that I really explored, was splatters, different using different brushes,
Yep.
different
I can see
papers
it.
even. Yeah, I use different papers to see what I can do, and so I
Hmm.
found it. So now I'm working on issue 2. Everything feels more seamless, and like, oh, this is me, and I'm not like looking at things all the time. I can just draw. But yeah.
So this works really well in black and white.
Hmm.
Um, are you thinking in terms of black and white and then color afterwards? And are you working in this sort of real stark black and white for issue number 2, and then you go ahead and color that?
Yeah, actually, that's the weird part about issue 2 now, is because I have to remind myself I'm working in color.
Mm,
Because so I'm so used to drawing this way,
yeah,
and also the commissions I've been doing is all black and white, and so
right.
I think of black and white. So for issue 2, I have to like remind myself, oh, hold back, this is going to be color. So I've been doing that a lot more lately, but so far I have been thinking about colors. For this book, I was thinking black and white. The first book, I was like, this is gonna be color, so a lot more easier in the first book than this the second book now. But yeah.
Yeah, because if it works well in black and white, it'll usually work well in color, you know?
Yeah, and also I color very flat. I just add a bit texture to the color itself, but it's very
Yeah.
subtle, so it does help. So it's, even if I do work at too much black and white, it's gonna work.
What are you using to get this like sort of texture on the crocodile dude here?
I believe
This
that
like
was some dry brushing, if I remember.
is
It
it?
was, I
And
think
then you
so.
went with white over it because it's like it almost
Yeah,
looks like a cloth or something.
let me check. I have it here.
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah, it was.
use
Yeah, it was dry brushing and also splatter.
it
So
was.
so I use actually the same brush for my splatter.
Huh.
Um, and it's like I forgot what it is, but it's kind of cut, the little flat brush. It says cut little sections of it, and so I can get
Yeah.
really fine splatters, and also just really nice dry brushing with it. So I use both, but that one I believe it was mostly splatter, and then I went with white out and or white
Interesting.
acrylic to add that. Yeah.
I'm always chasing this texture, and I'm able to get it most of the time now. But I'll use burlap, and dab
Oh,
it,
burlap's good. Yeah.
or I'll use sponge and do
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
or just like
Oh, cut off there real quick.
as far as textures go, he's just the god to me, and so I'm always
Oh, your audio cut out, Chris. See.
going out. Don't
See
worry,
it.
my voice will come back.
You're good now. You're back though.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm always kind of chasing his textures, and I
Hey, who's
noticed
texture?
like
You were
Sergio
cut off for them.
Topi's. Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
Topi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Topi.
yep, Topi's
I,
textures. So these are
yeah,
the things that I know that he uses or used.
yeah.
R.I.P. Sergio Topi, but yeah.
He was
So I was
actually
wondering if
directed
that's
to me. He's actually, yeah, he's an influence. Back in college, it was my professor in comics. He said, since I do a lot of black and white art at
yeah,
that time, and he's like, oh, you should look at Topi's work. And he sent me like he didn't send me, he just showed me some of the books, and then I looked up in Pinterest, and so I have
yeah.
I think 2 books of his, but that's about it.
Oh man, I got like I have a lot of Topi books. I should go
Great,
over them on the channel sometime.
yeah.
But yeah, man, this is just crazy. So how far into issue 2 are you now?
So I've been thumbnailing and penciling the whole book itself,
Mhm.
but then I'm inking. The inking is catching up to it.
Okay.
Um, so I believe I've penciled. So it's about 112 pages, and then 20 with the extra stuff. I penciled about rough pencil at least like 70 pages at least.
Okay.
And then I've inked just the prologue sequence. Because I'm really like the inking to me is really fast. That's the
Yeah.
part where I just get to play. Penciling
Yep.
is where I really like pencil and thumbnails is where I really, really do the comics part. And
It's
so that's
exhausting. That's
it
the
is.
exhausting
It
part. The
is.
thumbnails.
Yeah. Thumbnails, I think is the one that takes me the longest even. I mean,
I know.
pencils are just
Yeah.
like I just put the layer in there, but thumbnails, you just even the rough shaves and stuff, and man, it's a lot of work. And the thing too is like I approach a book as a book. I don't approach it
Yeah.
page by page. I
Right.
like to think of it as the whole design. And so that's why I do the whole thing, at least big sections of it at a time, and I really lay it out because I have like a thumbnail sheet that I do so I can see how each page connects and how it kind of flows. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of like the way storyboard artists, they would have that big storyboard on the wall for animation. Just kind of like
Yep.
that, the way I
Yep.
treat it.
Yeah, I know all
Yeah.
about that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I find like I get like actually like physically exhausted when it's time for me to do the thumbnails because I
Yeah.
think I'm just like burning so much brain power trying to figure out how to make
It
everything work
is.
just right that by the time I'm done, I'm just like, oh,
Dude, yeah, I feel that. The thing is like we're not even drawing nice things, right? We're just really just figuring out storytelling and composition. And so when you're like for me at first when I did it a lot after I was like, why am I so tired? Like my brain is like, I thought I can fit in another drawing. I can't because all I did today was writing and thumbnails, but it's all brain power, and I
yeah.
was exhausted.
Yeah, and I look forward to the inking times because then you can just
I
cruise
know,
along, and that's when you
me
get to play
too.
and have fun and add little details and get the textures going. And that's
Yeah,
but the drawing happens in the thumbnail and penciling
exactly.
part.
It's like I work on my iPad for all that stuff, and so I work on
Yeah,
my computer desk, and when I have to be in my drafting table at least once or twice a week just to ink because I will go crazy if I don't. So
yeah,
the commissions have been nice about that too, where I can just ink at least one thing or two. It's like an artistic win, you know what I mean? Because
right.
man, it can get really tiring.
Yeah, yeah. I've been doing my thumbnails on my iPad and then printing them out in Blue Line. That's the latest version of my process, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I still don't know if I love that.
Oh, you cut off there again, Chris.
Um, uh,
Yeah,
lead on my hands. But yeah, I've been doing everything myself. I've been seeing you pencil all your stuff on digitally, and I just like am blown away by the way that you do it.
I think it's because I like to edit a lot. Because when I was penciling, like the first book, the color one, that was penciled by hand. All of that. Funny enough, I thought I would be faster digitally penciling, but I'm actually more a bit slower because I have more control.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the second Tales of Space Knights was penciled digitally. So it's my first time trying that process out with the zine, the black and yellow book. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to see which one I like better. And I really liked the pencils in digital better because when I penciled it by hand, I erased a lot, like a lot. It was a lot of erasing. My paper sometimes would just get torn. I went through a lot of erasers. And so, I was making these books. It's the first book. I was in college, so I was really tight on money, so I couldn't afford to do that a lot. And so with the Tails, I didn't want to spend more money on Bristol and more erasers. And so, I got an iPad, might as well try it out. And so it
Yeah.
worked out, And so now that's my whole process. I pencil everything digitally, but I still do sketch by hand because, I can't lose that.
Right.
But editing wise for commissions and comics, I want to make sure I have full control and also save time to really like edit things. But sometimes when I'm penciling by hand, there's some things like, oh, it looks bad, but I don't have time. I just move on.
Yeah.
But in digital, I can just lasso that easy fix, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I get from doing that too. So
Yeah, I find that even when I have digital, because of that sort of like paradox of choice, like I can't, like there's too much choice in it,
yeah,
And so I
it
try to keep it
is.
as simple as possible. And then I just end up treating it like paper, and I don't like redraw things.
Yeah.
So I'm not even using it like to my advantage. So I may as well just be doing it on paper, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah, whatever works for people. Like I know for a fact that I know a lot of people just want to use pencil because it is the tangible thing, the like having the physical thing too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just whatever works for you as an artist. In the end of the day,
Exactly. Yeah, my
yeah,
pencils are super, super, super loose. And then I will go in and I'll take
that
a
makes
blue
sense.
pencil and tighten things up once I
Mm-hmm.
print it out. So I'm almost penciling twice in a way.
Yeah, that's funny.
It's so stupid. It's
And then
supposed to
ink,
be saving me time and it just
a
makes
whole another
everything
step.
longer.
That's funny.
Uh, anyway, so where can people get SpaceKnights?
Oh, well, through cosmiclineproductions.com.
Cool.
That's my publisher, Eli
Mhm.
Schwab, our little buddy.
Our buddy
Yeah, he
Eli.
publishes that. Yeah, and you can also go to my website, Catalan Art. So my first letter of my name, last name, art.com. And there's a tab there. You can click for Space Knights too.
Cool. And where can they find you on the socials?
My same thing, Catalan underscore art. That's in Instagram. And then yeah, Instagram is where I'm really like prominent. So I don't use Twitter or anything like that. I mean, I do have Twitter. I need to start using more Twitter, but it's the
Yeah.
same handle.
Okay, cool, man. Well, jeez, thanks for popping by.
Yeah, dude.
And
It's
thanks for
fun.
looking at this. And I mean, I feel like you're skyrocketing. It's just begun. And you're going to be that guy that was like, that like everybody thinks came out of nowhere,
Oh,
you
that's
know?
sweet. I hope so.
I
I hope
really do.
so.
I think you're going to blow up here pretty soon if you haven't just already begun the huge ascent already. So,
I just need to meet the right people.
yeah,
That's it.
man. Yep. Just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing it
Yeah.
right. All right.
Thanks,
Well, thanks for
Chris.
coming on, and we'll talk to you later.
Of course, man. See ya.
All right, man. Bye.
Bye.
Before you go, don't forget to join my Patreon for exclusive content and physical comics gifted right to your door, like my sketchbooks and my Masters of the Universe bootleg comics, Not Man Nor Beast But Moss, and Stench of the Sea. Right now, I'm serializing my new mini, The Voyeur. You can support the channel by buying my comics, original art on my website, books like Spectral, A Showcase of Fear, 6 spooky tales, each told in a different spot color and weaved by a sinister traveling puppeteer. Lost Angels is a YA sci-fi mystery. When a space city crash lands on Santa Monica and begins to assimilate with our culture, young Alex Martinez may be the only one who can solve the mysterious death that occurs at her integrated human and angelic alien high school. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe, leave a comment, and we'll see you next time.